Good Saturday morning, I'm Jaden Jefferson, and welcome to Toledo News This Morning. We begin with a check of the forecast. Today you can expect a high in the lower 70s and low in the upper 40s. And with these warmer temps comes the likelihood of storms and some high winds throughout the day. Spring is 5 days away, and as the seasons change, Northwest Ohio's weather becomes dangerous in different ways. We're talking tornadoes, storms, high winds, flooding, you get the idea. And that's why the Lucas County Emergency Management Agency is encouraging residents to sign up for texts from the county in the case of an urgent event. That can be done at lucascountyalerts.com. The City of Toledo has announced that, as part of an initiative to make menstrual products available in its public restrooms, the first 2 dispensers have been installed. They were purchased from the company Aunt Flo, and according to the city, are available in the Ottawa Park Ice Rink restrooms, free of charge. Director of Public Services Megan Robson says that One Government Center, the Safety Building, Toledo Municipal Court, and community centers in the city are the next locations to have dispensers installed. And after that, more will follow. Dr. Brittany Jones, an at-large member of Toledo City Council, is hosting a town hall meeting on Tuesday at the Trilby Park Shelter House. It begins at 7 p.m. and is open to any resident who has something to say. The meeting is a part of Dr. Jones' listening session series entitled Hear Us Out, Building a Stronger Community. And I actually caught up with her for Community Focus. The interview is up tomorrow at 11 a.m. right here on YouTube. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine on Wednesday delivered his State of the State address. Statehouse News Bureau Chief Karen Kasler joined me to recap the speech and offer some insight into the race for DeWine's successor in 2026.
This is his second to last State of the State speech. And of course, that's an annual speech that's done before a joint session of the Ohio House and Senate. DeWine is in an interesting position in that there were 2 years that he didn't give the speech because of the pandemic. So this is his second to last one. Like I said, it's really coming on the heels of announcing the details of his budget. And so he spent a lot of the speech talking about his budget and talking about proposals that he's hoping that Republicans who are in the supermajority in the legislature will approve. Some of these ideas have not gotten a real warm reception from those Republicans. And we're finding out now that the proposals that he wanted for a tax increase on cigarettes, a tax increase on sports betting operators, a tax increase on marijuana, those are very likely to be cut from his budget. And so this is part of the process, but that speech was a big part of DeWine's role in that, in terms of defending the ideas that he feels are important, even though he probably had a pretty good idea that they weren't going to go very far.
Yeah, and obviously Republicans, they have that supermajority in the Ohio State House, but this goes to show that there isn't always that cohesion that you would expect, and we're obviously seeing this on the national level as well. Is that kind of going to be the biggest issue for Governor DeWine in these last couple years?
Yeah, I think there's a real dispute over tax increases, regardless of what they're for here. I mean, DeWine, in those 3 tax increases that I just mentioned, he's really hitting at things that he feels very passionate about. He's campaigned for a long time against smoking, especially youth smoking. And I think the aiming that tax increase, that cigarette tax increase, and having the proceeds of that go to a tax credit for children under age 7, that hits 2 of the things that DeWine really likes to talk about here. The marijuana tax, he and other Republicans have said they're very concerned about recreational marijuana in Ohio, which voters approved in 2023. They approved a 10% tax, or they approved a tax rate that now DeWine wants to double to 20%. And that appears to be on its way out potentially. And then also this sports gambling operators tax. I mean, DeWine has gone off against sports betting in Ohio, saying it violates some of the rules that were agreed to. He's very concerned about targeting young people, especially young men. But it seems that that's another tax that probably won't be going anywhere. That was a tax that would benefit a sports facilities fund so that teams like, for instance, the Cleveland Browns would not continually come to the legislature and ask for money for sports projects. DeWine wanted to direct them to that fund, but it seems that that's not going to be the way that lawmakers want to deal with that.
There definitely economically is a lot to talk about in Ohio, because one of the things is obviously the Intel project in Columbus area. So kind of speak to that in terms of economic development. Did the governor speak to what his economic plans may look like?
In fact, that was really all that he talked about when it comes to the economy. He really didn't talk about personal economy issues like property taxes and inflation and things like that people have individually said that they're struggling with, and lawmakers keep getting calls about property tax increases specifically. He didn't really talk about those at all, didn't even mention property taxes, but he did talk about the overall economic climate of the state, which is something that as governor, he has a role to play here in. I mean, he talked about some of the wins that he says the state has gotten over the last several years, specifically on Intel, like you mentioned. Intel, we're talking about potentially 3,000 jobs and billions of dollars in investment, though there's some real concerns about Intel's financial health at this point. They've had some financial struggles. They've scaled back the completion dates on their projects here in the Columbus area. And also, President Trump said in an address to Congress recently that he feels that the Chips and Science Act, which helped benefit Intel and other computer chip makers, was a horrible idea and suggested it needed to be rolled back. So there's some real worries about what the future is for Intel, but DeWine didn't really talk much about Intel. He tried to bring focus to other projects, including some projects in Northwest Ohio that are smaller in scale, but certainly have an impact in those areas. And so I think those are kind of the things that he's hoping people will look at, as well as Intel, where they're also looking and asking questions.
And we were just saying before the interview that it seems like campaign season really never truly ends, because once you have the election over, there's already that speculation about what 2026 is going to look like. What is the tone that the governor is setting going into this? Because he obviously will not be able to run again, but there are some folks who are throwing their hat into the ring. And so did we see the governor hint at that at any point during the speech?
I almost interrupted you because I was so interested in talking about this part of it. Because, yes, it is tiring to talk about election season over and over again, but it comes around all the time. As soon as one election's done, the next one starts up again. And we're already seeing that. We've got three candidates potentially in the race for governor. Because when Donald Trump won and J.D. Vance became vice president, that opened up his U.S. Senate seat. DeWine appointed then Lieutenant Governor John Husted to that. Husted had been wanting to run for governor, so that opened up the governor's race. And here you have Attorney General Dave Yost, who was also running for governor, seemed to kind of own that campaign. But then Vivek Ramaswamy, who Trump had appointed along with Elon Musk to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, he stepped away from that role or was removed from that role. It seems to be kind of disputed what exactly happened with Doge. But Vivek Ramaswamy wanted to run in Ohio for an office. He had expressed some interest, I guess, in the U.S. Senate seat, but then has announced that he's going to run for governor. So he and Dave Yost and this other candidate, former Morgan County school board head, Heather Hill, she's the other candidate, a long shot candidate in this race because she's dealing with two well-known men, two men who've been around for a while, at least in Dave Yost's case, and Vivek Ramaswamy not only been around for a little while, but also has a lot of money. And so those are going to be the powerhouses we're going to see. The one that is still out there that we don't know, the wild card, so to speak, is Jim Tressel, the former Ohio State football coach, who is now the lieutenant governor. He is not ruled out running for governor. He has not said he's going to do it. And a lot of folks are wondering if that's going to be something else that could come in and shake up that race.
Yeah, and obviously we're seeing that there's sort of this difference between what are the old guard Republicans and obviously the newcomers who kind of emerged out of President Trump's presidency and have gotten a lot of attention for their support for the president. And this race is interesting in that way because Dave Yost is a household name as the state attorney general, but we've seen that Vivek Ramaswamy has gotten the endorsement of President Trump, which recent election has shown goes really far in Ohio. So how could this shape up and what could it look like?
Well, when you want to talk household names, I mean, for a lot of people, Jim Tressel is even a bigger household name than Vivek Ramaswamy or Dave Yost, because Jim Tressel got Ohio State its first national football championship in like 30 years when he won it. So I think he is really somebody that people are very interested in. He seems to have a positive perception among people who know who he is, which again is a lot of the state. When I asked Dave Yost about the idea of what lane are you in, if Vivek Ramaswamy got the Trump endorsement, which Yost wanted, what lane is Yost in? And Yost said he feels that he's almost the outsider here because he has gone up against members of his own party in terms of pushing back on some of the things that he's proposed. He's struggling, though, against some big forces, not only Ramaswamy's money and the Trump endorsement, but also there was an endorsement recently from the head of the Center for Christian Virtue, which is a very influential lobbying group in Columbus. He endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. Interestingly, Vivek Ramaswamy is Hindu, and Dave Yost is very public about his Christian faith. So the head of this Christian group said that he endorsed Ramaswamy because he feels that this is a special opportunity, a special moment, and that Vivek Ramaswamy is the person who can meet it. But it really does potentially put another kind of kneecapping on Dave Yost's campaign when he's talked openly about his faith, and one of the biggest leaders in Ohio in that faith has endorsed the other guy who's not even of that faith.
And the one person we haven't heard from in this is the current sitting governor, which is Governor DeWine. Do we expect to hear from him in terms of making an endorsement of who should take his place?
I would think that he would want to say something because it's his legacy here. I mean, he's been governor by the end of his term for 8 years. He's done some things that he really feels passionate about families and children, and some of the policies that he's wanted to see go into effect have actually gone into effect. So I would think that protecting his legacy would be something he'd want to make sure happens. And then the question becomes, of the candidates who are running, who would be the best one who would protect his legacy? So we're going to have to see going forward. I mean, Jim Tressel being this wild card here, we don't know what he might do if he's even going to run. And I hate to keep bringing him up, but he is such a big figure in the state of Ohio, especially at this point as lieutenant governor. So I think over the next year, we'll see a little bit more maybe from DeWine. But I think right now he's reluctant to get into this because a lot of people believe very strongly in primaries that people and voters should have the opportunity to pick their candidates in primaries. And maybe that's where DeWine is right now.
In other news this morning, the University of Toledo and The Blade continue their partnership on a thought leadership series called The Perspectives, with an upcoming event on March 24th. Perspectives, the mental health crisis among young people, will feature a UT psychologist, joined in a panel discussion by 3 national experts. The free event begins at 6 p.m. in the school's Dorman Theater. Registration to attend is online at theblade.com/perspectives. Those are Saturday's stories. I will see you tomorrow, same place, different time, for Community Focus at 11 a.m.